Hello, everybody, and welcome to the top 5 new comics for July 3rd of 2024. I'm, as always, Chris, and hallelujah, we're down to one comic book day. No more 2 days. DC, you finally came to your senses and released your comics on Wednesdays, where they belong. Thank you for that. But enough of that. Let's jump into the comics this week, starting with Annihilation 2099 number 1. This is written by Steve Orlando with art by Ibraim Roberson, colors by Niraj Menon, and letters by Corey Pettit. So, may or may not know about me, but not the biggest Steve Orlando fan. His stuff is very much hit or miss for me. Not all creators can hit with all people. That's why we all have different tastes. That's just what it is. I recognize his talent, just his style doesn't really work with me. And his 2099 stuff has not hit with me at all. Just have not enjoyed it. I say all this to say that this is one of my top 5 books I'm looking forward to because you put Annihilation in the title. I love Annihilation. It is one of my favorite Marvel event books ever. I am always telling people who have never read Annihilation to read it. And I will tell you all, if you've never read the original Annihilation, it is a must read. It is the birth of what we know as the Guardians of the Galaxy today. It did so many cool things with the Nihilist and the Negative Zone. All these different characters of the Marvel Cosmic Universe really brought them to the forefront and reshaped what Cosmic Marvel is today. And if you enjoy any of that cosmic stuff, it all starts with Annihilation. So to do it in the 2099 universe is going to get my attention and is going to be something that I'm looking forward to. 5-issue series done in kind of a similar style of how Annihilation was done through these series with starring different characters throughout it and telling that story in that way. I'm there for it. I am really excited to jump into this book and see what Steve and crew have in store for this storyline. It's a story that fits the 2099 universe, and I'm always excited to see it come back. Annihilus is, because of this story, the original storyline, is one of my favorite villains. It's a great series, and I'm really looking forward to this one. So we'll see if they can stick the landing on it. But for now, you have my attention. Now is your time to pull me into your work. And I'm really, really looking forward to this book. After that, we've got Absolute Power number 1. This is written by Mark Waid with art by Dan Mora, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, and letters by Andrea Marr. So we got the Absolute Power Ground Zero issue, which basically set up the big villains, who they are, where they are, how they got to be. That issue was okay because it's basically just these short story setups for these characters. But if we look at all the books that were leading up to Absolute Powers, I'm talking about Superman Action Comics, I'm talking about the Batman series, even throw in books I didn't necessarily read, but I've heard really good things about, like Suicide Squad Dream Team. You can throw World's Finest in there. I believe without Mark Waid and Dan Moore doing World's Finest, you would not be at Absolute Power. It's been a cool ride to get here. And one of the things I've always said about what I enjoy with a lot of the Marvel event books is that they feel like a continuation of a story from a book that's blown up to 100. So I think back to a bunch of events Marvel's done. We can even talk about Blood Hunt right now, where it really is a continuation of the Moon Knight story arc and what Ed McKay's been doing with Moon Knight and Avengers and coming to a collision course. Absolute Power feels like it's coming that way. And with such a great creative team that's done World's Finest and the first, I believe, 6 issues of Shazam together, books I absolutely love, I have to believe this is going to be a really good book. So with all that said, I I just feel like this is going to be a banger. Straight 4 issues. Mark Waid doing event comics again at DC. The Trinity fighting basically a trinity of robot villains. There's so many cool things that could happen here, and so many cool things to come out of this when it's all done. I am super, super excited for this book, and it'll be possibly not my number 1 off the pile next week, but it'll be probably my number 2. So kudos to DC too. They've been doing great event books recently. I know I've been talking a lot about Blood Hunt, but I think DC's event books have been stellar these past couple of years. So hopefully this follows that trend even further. After that, I've got Scarlett, number 2. This is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Marco Ferrari, colors by Lee Luridge, and letters by Russ Wooten. So you're going to see on the Fortune Comic News podcast later this week, subscribe now, that the G.I. Joe universe is expanding after these books end. And I have to give it to whoever's idea it was. Let's just say Kirkman for now, since he's the one kind of running Skybound, and the editors involved, that the way they've brought out G.I. Joe with Duke and Cobra Commander, now Scarlett and Destro, have pulled me in. And Scarlett is a book on its own. We've got Scarlett. She's basically a punk rock spy. Like she likes to go against the grain, do things that maybe the authority doesn't really care too much for, but she's really good at her job. So they keep bringing her in. And even though she breaks the rules, she's always trying to do the right thing. And I just really love that first issue with that big reveal at the end of, who her nemesis is going to be throughout the series and what she's going for. It's been a really great book. If you like spy books, I think this is one that, even if you're not a big G.I. Joe fan, you should know enough, like myself, about the G.I. Joe universe to know who that big bad is, who her nemesis is going to be. And it really does stand alone, but I'm also interested to see how it ties in, because she will be a part of the G.I. Joe book when it comes out. So the G.I. Joe universe, it's so strange to me that I'm so into it, because I've never cared about G.I. Joe as an IP. I watched those movies, didn't care for them. I've tried the cartoons. I was just too old when I got to them, and I never saw a good jumping on point for the comics. So it just never struck with me. And a huge credit to Image and Skybound for giving this kind of its own restart, creating their own universe with this, and pulling me in with it, because it's been successful. I am loving everything G.I. Joe right now, and I am super excited for more. So hopefully Scarlett number 2 continues that trend. After that, I have Space Ghost number 3. This is written by David Pepose with art by Jonathan Liu, letters by Taylor Esposito. I've just really loved Space Ghost. It's been such a phenomenal ride throughout it. We've gotten everything we need from the first 2 issues, and now the team is together. We've got Space Ghost with his companions, and they get to go off and fight their fights and figure out what the future is for them. I've said it once, I said it a million times. This book is not only really well written with a great story, how they're introducing the cast, everything like that, but the art is so fucking good that I can't believe it's a Space Ghost book. When Dynamite got the Hanna-Barbera IP, I was concerned, because Dynamite is a publisher that I'm not super familiar with. I read the James Bond stuff. I see what they're doing with like Vampirella and Elvira, and it's just outside of my reading zone, what I'm going to get into. It feels cheesy to me at times, but I've heard good things about what they do with Red Sonja and a few other characters. So I was like, what are they going to do? And what realm are we going to go down with these characters? Because I also really adored what DC did with it years ago. From the super serious to the super wacky. They did it all, and they did a great job at it. And 2 issues into Space Ghost, It's been so good. I'm just really excited to get my hands on this. And honestly, to all you out there, as you're listening or watching this, my review is probably out of Space Ghost because I got a review copy and I'll be writing a review sometime, and it should be out the day this video launches. So look out for that. chriscomicscore.substack.com. You can see my full thoughts on it. But for now, Space Ghost 3, I am very much looking forward to this book. And we're going to end with Public Domain number 6. This is written and drawn by Chip Zdarsky with additional art done by Rachael Stott. This is the book that Chip did when he made the move to do a Substack and do Substack comics. A lot of creators made this move. Chip was one of them. And what's interesting about this book, in terms of the industry as a whole, is that this is the first book that Chip has drawn full time since he did Sex Criminals. He became pretty much a writer after that, and that's how I was introduced to Chip Zdarsky, was as a writer through his Marvel work, and then went back in time and started reading all his stuff and fell in love with him from day one. And for him to do this book and to actually draw it was interesting from the sense of he felt enough about this that he wanted to go back to drawing, but also the journey he took through doing the podcast Manga-splaining and seeing the benefit of writing and drawing and all this, a lot of what the manga culture does in their comics. And it's paid off. That first volume of Public Domain is so good, has so many emotional beats, is outside of the realm of a typical comic book or what we would read for the most, at least I would read, I would say for the most part, as that it's a drama. It's a story about people and family, and this man who created this giant thing, a character known as the Domain, that this big company owns and are doing all these things with, and his family's battle to get the rights back so that they can control the destiny of this character and financially benefit from this character. And the reveal at the end of volume 1 of what happens is just so emotionally amazing. It's one of the rare times as a comic book where I teared up and I got really emotional about it. So to see this book back is really important to me. Like, it's just a book that hit so well. With everything Chip does, I've always really enjoyed it. But this one of all of them is just on another plane. And I really, really, really hope that he keeps that going for volume 2, because Public Domain is a special book and it deserves everyone's attention out there. You should definitely be checking this out. And I'm also interested to see, like, he brought in Rachael Stott to do some art. Apparently, because now we're going to see the creation of a comic in the comic, Rachael Stott does the art for the comic inside the comic, which is interesting. And I like that he chose to bring someone else in to do those pages, to go outside of his style, and which his style does not really fit typical superhero stories. And to have Rachael do it is an interesting choice. And I'll be interested to see how he does it. Honestly, it's going to be fun to see these clash of styles and how it builds into the story itself. I'm just super excited for this book. This is the book that when it comes out Wednesday, I will go home and immediately read. It's the first off the top of my list. And I just cannot recommend enough that people check this book out, because it is that special. Buy volume 1. Definitely check it out and catch up, jump on board for volume 2. So everybody, that is all this week. Such a good list this week. I'm really excited for it. If you are enjoying this video, please hit that like button down below and comment. Let me know what book you are most looking forward to this week. Which one did I miss? Which one shouldn't be on my list? Tell me all these things down below in the comments. We'll talk about it. And if you are enjoying everything Fortress Comics, you can hit that subscribe button down below as well. And if you want to follow me further, go on social media at Fortress Chris. Type that, you will find me. And as I said before, the podcast Fortress Comic News You can listen to that on any podcatcher of your choice. If you cannot find it on your personal podcatcher, your preferred one, let me know and I'll make sure it's on there for you. But we do some great interviews on that. We talk about the comic news, what books we're reading, all that kind of stuff. It's a fun show to do. And you can also find me at, as I also mentioned earlier, chriscomicscorner.substack.com, where all my reviews are. My retro reread series, we're almost done with Just Imagine Stan Lee Created the DC Universe, which has been a really fun book. And then the next thing we have coming is going to be a blast too. I'm really excited for it because we're leading up to a big release that I am just blown away as it exists, let alone that I'm going to have my hands on. And we also do the crowdfunding spotlight series on there as well, where I talk about a crowdfunding book that I think deserves your attention that you should be checking out that week. So check that Substack out. I have a blast doing on it. So that is all. Thank you so much for watching. And I promise you I'll see you all here next week.